Hi everyone, Zach here, and welcome to lesson 95 of this RTS tutorial series. In this video, we'll begin setting up our enemy AI. That said, I know this series has been offline for a bit, and that's been due to a move, a new job, and losing one of my drives, which had my backups, oddly enough, as well, of the main project file. I've had to rebuild the file, and therefore you might see some naming differences between this file and the version from earlier videos. However, this file has been built from the prep file, so most things should remain the same. If you notice major differences, please let me know down in the comments below. That said, this series has been brought to you by my Patreon sponsors like Nemian Games. And all of that said, fire up your project, and let's get started. Alright, so here we are back inside of the editor. God, it feels like ages since I've said that. So, as I mentioned, I lost the actual record file I've been using. This is the new one, so new recording, NR. And it is built from my last backup of the main file, the record file, and a lot of help from a member of my community. And I would love to give a shout out to a community member who on my Discord goes by Angel of Death, who spent several hours just checking that what I had matched the record files that you guys saw earlier. That said, there might be some differences in things that we missed. These things happen, but the overall setup should be the same. And again, I really want to give him a lot of credit for spending a lot of time just helping me double check everything was in place. Because it took so long to rebuild everything, my memory for where a lot of the AI stuff is and a lot of the logic is a bit hazy, so I might make some mistakes, but that said, we will be starting very simple and going back to basics with our building and our unit spawning with regards to setting up our enemy AI before we move into our actual behavior trees. That said, there was one thing I don't think I ever resolved is the unit fear. And you might get a read none error on the unit fear. So let's take a quick look at what's going on there. So if we open up our unit controller here, we set our status here, which brings us down to this event. And one of the final ones, of the first three that is our set fear timers. And in here, we're getting a read none. Now, what's interesting about this read none is we're getting a read none because of this here, this event. Now, you notice we don't get it if we hit play, and then we do that. We don't get it right away. Now, when do we get it? Well, we get it in a very particular moment, which is what we're going to use to figure out what's causing the issue. We spawn a unit in, and now we have that issue. We're getting that read none on the fear timers. Well, so my first thought was that I had forgotten to set our units correctly. So let's pop open a unit and look at the setting that we need to be concerned with. So let's go to our unit master. And in here, if we scroll down to pawn, we have this auto possessed by player. We want that disabled. We have this auto possessed by AI when placed in world or spawned. Well, that's right. And we have the correct AI. So if we go back here, let's get rid of this, get rid of that, go to our event graph. Well, the issue actually is these two nodes. Begin play happens before on event possessed, or event on possessed. And our set status is on our begin play. So this is firing off all the way down through here and then through here before we get here. So we're already starting all our timers before the unit is even fully possessed. So we only need this to go off once. If we plug that into there, we're good. Now, the reason why it isn't so much of an issue that it's up there outside of the fact that the fear timer doesn't start right away is if you change the game speed, eventually those timers will kick in. But this little change will resolve that issue. Also, you're curious why the lighting is different in mine currently. I rebuilt the lighting, and notice that issue is gone. I rebuilt the lighting, and since the clock starts at 6 with the sun rising, we get that nice little amber glow everywhere. It does go greenish again properly around 10 to noon, sometime between there. Can't quite remember where. All right, so now that we resolved that issue, let's get on to what we need to do for our AI for our enemy. We have a little bit, say a little bit, we have a lot of setup to do. And we're only going to do part of it in this video. Don't worry, the next video we won't be doing another part of it. We'll actually be getting into the enemy AI. The other parts of the setup will take place as we move through this section. So, first thing we need to do is we need to go to our enums folder. We need to create a new enum. And even though we're only going to use the first 2 slots on it, I'm going to create an enum that has 3 slots. Now, this enum is going to be called Teams Enum. Just pop that open, pin that into the correct window, and I said I'm going to create 3 new entries. We're only going to really use the first 2, and that's just because this is a tutorial. You can replicate beyond this, hopefully, with the other 2, with the other slot and any further slots you want to add. So the first slot will be our player. The second slot will be AI_1. Second slot will be AI_2. You can add as many teams as you want, but this is the setup for our teams. And again, we're only going to do the player, which we've already done, and the AI. You just assign the team to the correct pawn that we'll make later on. So we're going to make an AI pawn. We're going to assign it to the AI team 1. You put a second pawn in, you assign it to team 2, you put a third team in, team 3, so forth and so forth. That's all. So that is fairly easily expandable to get on to the next part. All right, the next thing we need to do is we need to go to our structures folder. And we need to open up our construction structure. And we're going to add in 2 new components, or 2 new parts of the structure. And the first one we're going to add in is controlled by AI, and that will be a Boolean. And the second one is team. And I'll give you a guess, like I like to say, what we're going to put into there. That is the enum we just made. Go ahead and save that, and I'm going to pin that in there. Now, we're going to open up a bunch of blueprints, and we're going to bounce back and forth between them as we go. This is not going to be very clear cut in terms of which which blueprint you need to be in when, so I'm going to try to be very, very clear. So the first thing we want to do is go to the buildings folder. We are going to open our building master. We are going to open up our preview building. We will also, of course, then open up our construction. Now, we'll handle these in turn, and also I'm just going to Control-S save everything. We also need now something we haven't seen in some time outside of this tutorial series. Yes, I am taking shots at myself. Our RTS player controller. We also need our unit master. So let's go to our units. We'll take the unit master. Go back to your buildings. We need our military training post building. Back to our units and into our vehicle folder. We need our groundmaster vehicle. And let's go back to our buildings, and we need our industrial building this time and our factory. And finally, the last one we need is our marquee selector. All right, so all we have to do in our building is add 2 new variables in. And the first one will be is controlled by AI. We're going to do that variable a lot, by the way. We need this something that we can edit and that it's exposed on spawn. We also then need a team variable. Again, something we can edit, something exposed on spawn. This needs to be of our team enum. And that's literally all we're doing in this one. We're going to leave this open just in case there's anything I want to double back to or I missed. Now, I'll put these in categories later on. Also, you might notice that some of my categories or function names are different. I apologize about that. We didn't go through that part to check everything. That would have taken way too long. All right, next. Well, let's talk through the logic of what we're doing. Because I just want to walk through a reminder here. If we go through our left-click procedures, we're in building mode. We want to start construction preview. We check if there's an overlap. No, there's no overlap. Then we can build there. Do we have the resources? Well, if we do, then we want to reduce the resource and start our construction structure preview. So this is in our preview building. To get the information in there that we need, well, if we go back, we have the set buildings detail. We don't need to check overlap open. We also have this lovely setup here. Now, again, in terms of good code, what you would want to do is you want to create a structure that you're actually passing earlier on, or there are just neater ways to do this. When I say neater, I don't mean cooler, I mean more efficient and just cleaner. But this works for what we are doing. All right, so we're going to take from here, and we're going to get is controlled by AI. We're going to pull from here again, and we are going to get our team. We need both pieces of information. Now, we have to set this information somewhere, and we'll talk about where we set that in just a moment. Let's go into this for a second, and let's add in 2 new nodes, if I don't collapse that window again. Oh, by the way, at some point, and I can't remember which video, I said something really stupid, that everything is a pass-by reference. That isn't true. It's actually pass-by value. We haven't used pass-by reference in this series. If you're not familiar with that concept, when I cover C++ in this series, I will, or cover C++ in this RTS series, or if you watch my other C++ series, I will talk about the difference between pass-by value and pass-by reference. All right, so this is going to be is controlled by AI, and our next one will be our teams. And again, that will be, of course, our team's enum. All right, let's just plug that into there, and let's go into here. Actually, can we just pass that into there? No, we can't, sadly. All right, create 2 new variables. That's 1, 2. The second one is going to be teams, which I somehow put a space in. And this will be is controlled by AI. Again, you can start to see really there are neater ways to do this. Put my lovely little reroute into there. Go from our teams, plug our teams in, and our reroute there. Go into set building details. All we're going to do from here is promote to variable, which I could have really done in the last one. All right, so that is our is controlled by AI. And look, I didn't make the same mistake I always do of trying to pull it along and then having to F2 to rename. God, I miss those days of those mistakes. And then let's do our teams, promote to variable, and this will be our teams. All right. Passing that through. So now that we've done that and we've passed the information through, well, we have to consider where this information goes. Well, it can be passed into our start construction. Now, we could just pass it through here, and that's going to be useful for the AI, but for the player, and what we're really going to do is just pin it into our start construction nodes here. So we're just going to grab that and bring it down so it's not in the way. And if your team isn't showing up on this node, just right click it and hit refresh. Bring this node down as well and put another reroute in if it will let me. There we go. Now if we go back to our player controller, you notice, hey, that's there. Well, we're setting our team there. This is the player. We're not an AI. So that's going to be passed through as player and not AI. All right. Now there are a couple other things we need to do in here as well. We want to go to our check construction status. So if we pop this open and go to check construction status, well, we don't care about buildings that aren't the players anymore, because they're going to be buildings that aren't the players. So we're going to break that out for a second. And instead we're going to have an and here. We want to know, is it under construction and does it belong to the player? Well, we get that information from the building. We've just passed it into the building. So we get our team. We want to know, is the team equal to player? Or we could do is controlled by AI, not, and then plug into there. So let's think about this. We'll go back to our event graph. We start our preview. We pass in the information that this isn't owned by the AI. It isn't owned by, it's by the player team. That gets passed into the spawned actor. Well, what actor are we spawning here? Well, we're spawning a building based on the class that we had just previewed. So we're going to spawn in, if we go here, to our building master. Now, there are some other changes we want to do in here as well, by the way. I've now just realized there was one I skipped a little bit ago that doesn't really relate to the construction, but does relate to something else. So that's all we're doing is we're passing that information along. And now that we pass that along, we can check, well, does this building belong to the player? That also means when we have our update building list, and we probably should move that to construction as well. I'm not sure where I had it before. But if I didn't, that's where it belongs. At least now. All right, in here, we're going to have the same setup. In fact, actually, I'm just going to be really lazy about this and go back to my update under construction. And I took the wrong one. Actually, this is update construction list is the next one we want. Check construction status is where I did that. I'm going to copy these 3 nodes, the teams, the equal to player, and the and I'm going to go to my update buildings list. I'm just going to drag that out a bit, drag these down a bit, and paste in those nodes. And then from this reroute, plug into our target, take from the and there, or take into the and there, and plug into our condition check. So now we want to know, is a building built and does it belong to the player? If so, add it to the list of constructed buildings. Save that. All right. In our player controller, we are going to go to update our under construction list, and we're going to do the exact same thing here. So to slide that along, I still have in my copy and paste the 3 nodes from earlier, so I'm just going to paste those back in, and we're going to check, is it built or not? And is it belonging to the player or not? And we're going to add this to our list. If it is not, ooh, we're actually going to do one quick change there. Sorry, I caught what I was about to say and went, that's not right. And we're going to do not here. So this is a little bit backwards in terms of logic, but just bear with me for a second. Is the building not built? And does the building belong to somebody who is not the player? Well, it belongs to the player in this case. So this not isn't true, and it's not built, hopefully, when we put the building into the game as the player, that is. So it's going to come back as false. We're going to add it to our unconstructed list. Actually, you know what? I don't like that. I really don't like that, and I'm going to make a quick change here. Make an executive decision. We're going to put another branch in. And we're going to leave it on the tree from this branch. So, get rid of that not. So, is the building not built? No, it is not. Check. Is the building owned by the player? That can lead to issues as well. So what we're going to do for that, in fact, I'm just going to duplicate this branch up here. Paste that into there. Take that back into my copy and paste buffer for a minute. And we're going to do one on that. So if the building is built and it belongs to the player, we have a set of things to do. If the building is not built and it belongs to the player, we add it to our list of unconstructed buildings. If the building is built and belongs to the player, we remove it from our list of unconstructed buildings. So there will be built buildings that don't belong to the player. We don't want to go through here and go, this building isn't here. What's going on? All right. So let's go back a moment and go back to our building master. Well, when our buildings get built or spawned or however we set it up, they start to clear fog. And we don't want them to do that if they're the enemy building. And our enemies, our enemy AI, doesn't rely on a camera like we do. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a branch here. And all we do, and we're not going to check teams this time, we're just going to check, is this the player or is this an AI? So pretty much all we got to do, actually we'll do the teams check just because I prefer the teams check because I can go off the true. I hate going off the false. I do that so often in the series, use the false. We're going to do another teams check just because, why not? And if I had to say teams another time, I'm going to probably cry a little bit. That was not what I meant to type in. We want to do equal enum. Is it the player? Yes, this is the player. Therefore, we should start clearing the fog out. So, we can actually test that one real quick. We know the fog is somewhere. Let's just move farther away out. And I'm behind our nice little building there. Let's grab a silo. Let's set it to, that's the wrong thing. Let's set it to control by AI. Team 1 is built, is not under construction. And let's put another silo in here, just for the kicks of it. I'll delete these a little bit later. So silo is built, and owned by player, not controlled by AI. We hit play. We scroll down here. Hey, there's a silo. Cool. We scroll this way. Well, our silo seems to be on top of the fog, but that might be just due to my placement of it. Oh no, the silo goes above the fog. I thought I resolved that issue earlier. Cool. Apparently I didn't. So we need to raise our fog a bit to avoid that happening. There we go. Can I zoom under the? I can zoom under the fog. All right. Well, that will take a bit of tinkering to deal with. So I'm just going to lower that back down. But you can see that it's not clearing the fog around the silo. So clearly the fog of war still needs a little bit of work to address the silo size, or we need to reduce the silo size to address the fog of war issue. But you can see it's not reducing the actual, so we can move it further away, it's not reducing the actual amount of fog of war. All right, let's delete that. I will remember at some point to actually address that issue, and let's delete that silo as well. All right, so we now have our buildings all set up. Now we need to take care of our units real quick, and this is where it gets, again, a bit messy. So let's just go over to our unit master. Well, we need to create those same functions again. We need a is controlled by AI. We need a team Enum reference. I should probably type the word in team yet again. I think I've been using teams during this quarantine so often that I have become a bit phobic of that word. Again, we want both exposed and something we can edit. All right, there we go. Now, what we want to do, now that we have that in our player controller, or sorry, not our player controller, in our unit master, is we have some, well, we're going to have some other edits we want to do in this down the road, but we'll talk about those later on. We're going to need to make some checks on our cast up here, like, well, we don't have a player controller if it's under control of the AI. So we'll have a branch in there to take care of that down the road. But just be aware, we will make more edits there. That is going to be the same. That's going to be the same. We're just going to get rid of all this sort of stuff. All right. So now that we have that in there, let's go to our training post for a second. Well, in our training post, let's just clear out all of this stuff, except for the spawn new unit. We're going to leave that open. There we go. So our training post, we spawn our new unit in. That should actually be on that side of the event graph. We spawn our new unit in. So if we just hit refresh, we see control by AI and team. Well, we already have variables for that. So I literally just right-clicking and type in is controlled by, not in, is controlled by AI. We get that node. Why do we get that node? Because this is a child of our building master. And remember, children, all these variables are protected. That's public. I can't make that private for some reason. I'm clicking the wrong one. And we can make things private. If it is protected, like this one is, then children inherit that particular variable and can use it. And since it's in our master, our building master, we can use it. And we're going to get team as well. And we're just going to plug that into there. In fact, actually, what I should have done, in fact, what I'm going to do is we're going to go back. We're going to delete that for a minute. Go back to your building master. And we're going to create a new pure function. This will be get team. It's a pure function. It will have two outputs, but we'll take care of that in a second. It will be our team, or our is controlled by AI and our team. And do a return node. And then plug your Boolean into the return node so it populates it with a new pane and your team in there as well. All right. We're not going to call the variables. We're going to call this function just so we have a little bit better OLP design. Just going to control S, save everything. And then we want to get team. And we're going to get the function version of it. And that goes into there. That goes into there. And then we can just duplicate this function all the way through. Probably should grab the reroute with that. There we go. Boom. Refresh. I'll move things around so it's a bit neater in a moment. Everything but you. Now everything including you. There we go. Refresh. And actually, I'll just move this top one up. And refresh. Take our get team pure function here, paste that in. I'm going to move everything just a bit farther forward. If it will let me select, thank you. Move that forward a little bit more. Somehow I broke that node. I am not entirely sure how. Okay. Is controlled. Team. There we go. Control W is controlled and team. There we are. We're now passing the information in from the building. Who gets the information from the player? Which one they're going to do. Guess what we have to do yet again with our ground vehicle and our factory. Our factory, we have that function we can call. But we still have to get this information of is controlled by the AI. And we're going to make that, again, something we can edit, something we see on spawn. We need to set it the second the unit is spawned in. And then our team, which will also be our team's enum. Well, I at least put teams in this time, even though I put an extra punctuation mark in there. I think that was a comma. I didn't pay attention as I deleted it. Save. Go to your factory. Well, our factory is where we spawn our vehicle. So let's just get rid of that. God, I have left some of these open from earlier. And there's our spawn vehicle. If we go over here, or you right-click it, and we refresh it, well, we have our team and it's controlled by AI. The factory, like the training post, is a child of the building master, which means we get access to all its variables and functions unless they are marked as private. So what we're going to do is we are going to do get team, call function, pass the is controlled by AI into there and the team into there. So now we are passing the information to the vehicles we are spawning in. And finally, the last thing we need to do in this video for setup is our marquee selector. So in our marquee selector, all we're going to do is we are going to get our set units and set vehicle functions. So those ones right on the event input release, which I'm going to remove the break from. Set units, set vehicles. I already have them open up here, so I'm just going to drag them along. We'll do the set units first. And in our set units, all we're going to do is after this cast, we are going to do one check. And then we're going to do the second check here. And again, there are other ways to lay this out, but I just want you to see the logic as we go through it. I need to remember, I can pull off of this do branch and it automatically puts it in on the true. We want to get our selected unit. From our selected unit, we want to get is controlled by AI. If it is not, you might even want to use team. Like if you have an alliance system, you know, you might have something controlled by an AI, but in the alliance, it's giving you this unit to borrow for a short bit. We're going to do not. So if you played Stellaris, for example, in RTS in space, you're able to take units over from your allies in certain situations, or your vassal states or empires. So it's not controlled by AI. We're going to do the same thing in the vehicle. Now, since we're not going to do a diplomacy system in this series, and please don't expect me to do one anytime soon, we are just going to use a check on if it's owned by an AI or not. And we're going to do another branch here, and we're going to plug this into the true. Actually, I'm going to undo that because even though I have it, I just want to show you what I was talking about earlier. There you go. If you didn't know, if you just pull off one, type in branch, it will automatically put whatever's originally connected on the true. I'm going to get my selected vehicle, and I'm going to get my is controlled by AI. Again, I want the not on this, and I'm paranoid I did not put the not on last time, even though I'm pretty sure I did. And just to double check, I didn't. I did, okay. There we go. So that's literally everything we have to do. So that takes us through everything we need to do in this video. We've done most of the prep work. Like I've mentioned, there'll be things that we have to take care of. For example, let's get rid of the marquee selector for a second. Just going to compile that real quick. This information, again, we're passing it in for the AI and for the player. But we also have things like this where we need to make a decision on how we're going to tackle. Well, do we want to cast to a player controller when we don't need the player controller? And that's going to change how the HUD works and all that other things. So we have other things we will do along the way that will be part of this prep work. But this was the biggest sort of sweeping changes we needed to get ready for. But if we hit play, hopefully everything still runs, everything still moves, our characters move, we can create new units. And if I put a new building in, I'm just going to put that over there. If it'll let me, thank you. I think I just put the building on top of that unit that I trained. Whoops. If we hit pause and then eject for a moment, and we try for a training barrack, well, we have two, and this one I want. Well, we can see that it is not built, it's under construction, that it's owned by the player, that it's controlled by the AI, and if we go to our unit, no, that was not what I wanted. That was an infantry unit I put in. Likewise, we can see that it is spawned in, not controlled by the player. But let's try something a bit different, just to show you how this is working. Let's go to our player controller and intentionally break something. We're going to put that controlled by the AI. We're going to hit that. We'll hit play, but we're going to do so in here just so we can eject again. So we're going to hit play. I'm just going to move over, and I'm going to put a silo in just because I prefer silos, if it'll let me. There we go. Hey, notice that we didn't clear the thing out there at all. I'm going to hit pause again, eject. And is it standing on top of the fog? No, it isn't. Okay. I'm just getting really paranoid that it's on top of the fog. It's just giant. Search for my silo. And you notice that it's controlled by the AI. And it's AI Team 1. So that is how we're going to be passing ownership of these items along. And this is important because the AI is going to make decisions. And when I say the AI, our behavior trees will make decisions on what to do based on if it's controlled by the player or not. And our units will make decisions on that. We're not going to stand around waiting for player input. The AI is going to just run on it on its own. All right, that said, again, sorry about the delay with the series coming back after the move. You don't want to see a drive get corrupted while you're backing things up to your Git. It does not go well, and it's very stressful. And then when all your backup projects, including the record files, also get corrupted. Like, there were things that vanished from files that weren't even associated, that made no sense. So, joys of losing a drive and backups. That said, again, apologies for the delay, but I hope you're going to enjoy this new section. And again, sorry about just being a lot of prep work in this. But hey, it's what we have to do, and we're going to iterate through things as we go forward. That said, welcome back to the series. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, go ahead and hit that like button down below. And if you want to be here when the next video on the usual schedule comes out, then again, hit that subscribe and notify icon. And if you want to help this channel out even further and have a say in what happens in the side series or other series I do, consider becoming a Patreon supporter. And as always, I look forward to seeing you in the next tutorial, and I hope that you have a wonderful day.